The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, O Lord. As Jesus was passing through a field of grain on the Sabbath, his disciples began to make a path while picking the heads of grain. At this, the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need and he and his companions were hungry? How he went into the house of God when Abiathar was high priest and ate the bread of offering that only the priests could lawfully eat and shared it with his companions. Then he said to them, 'The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. That is why the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Yes, Jesus, you tell them, you tell them, you are the Lord even of the Sabbath. Yeah, this is it. I mean, I don't know, the Pharisees, they seem particularly creepy in this one. Do you know, there's, Jesus and his guys they're just going through the fields and stuff, and they're the Pharisees, like, looking around. What's going on with you guys? Well, no, of course, they're paying attention to Jesus. I mean, this is, another one of those remarkable signs of just how powerful a personality Jesus was, and how large his crowd was, how strong his influence was, that the Pharisees are kind of, creeping on him. Do you know, like looking around and see what he's up to? And they weren't ready for this. Do you know? You can tell they're on the lookout, right? Who's keeping the ancestral law? Who's staying in line, right? Who's a good Jew? Who's not? And man, Jesus really, this is a really good counterattack by Jesus. And there's no way they saw this one coming, but it's fantastic. I mean, to begin with, it really is in two pieces here, right? The first response of Jesus to the accusation that he is breaking Sabbath law, right? That he's breaking this commandment is kind of like, yes, I am doing it. Right? It's like, okay, that was unexpected. What do you mean that? Because he's trying to show himself to be, or I don't know, whether he's trying to show himself to be, or he just is the faithful Jew. Jesus is the Jew par excellence, right? Jesus is Israel in the flesh. He is the recapitulation of Israel. He is owning Israel. Israel's story is his story. His story is Israel's story. Yeah, but made perfect in him. So if Israel is called to be a light to the nations, well, that's Jesus. Jesus is living out his life as the light to the nations, and he is then at the head of his new Israel, bringing a renewed Israel likewise into the promised land of God's good and perfect heavenly rule. This is what Jesus is doing, right? So what does it mean then when it says, are you breaking the Sabbath law? Yeah, I am. But you know what? I am. And you know who else did it? David did it. Now that's going to get them going, right? I mean, get them going in the wrong way. Okay, we didn't expect you to do that now. And now that you did that, that has consequences too, right? So we're going to kind of turn it up again. But David did it. So, and actually, if we go back, and it's a fascinating little story if we go back and read that in the scriptures. I believe it's in the book of Samuel, but I could be mistaken there. It's certainly after Samuel has anointed David, but Saul is still reigning. Saul is still on his throne. And so as David makes his way, he's gathering his troops, so to speak. He's building momentum for the conquest at hand. He's preparing for the day of his ascendancy to the throne. He finds himself in this position that Jesus describes. Well, Jesus wants he wants the Pharisees, and he wants his own guys, and he wants us to see the parallel there too. Jesus has been anointed, right? We know that from the first chapter of the Gospel according to Mark. We know that Jesus has been anointed in his baptism. He's been marked out by God as his anointed king, right? Just like David, but more so, right? And then he's making his way, but there's another king on the throne, right? Someone else is ruling. And he has come to defeat the opposition rule. And it's not the rule, and they were inclined to interpret this in whatever way they would, right? Like, okay, well, who's ruling then? And it could be the chief priests and the elders of the people, right? It could be the temple authorities are ruling. It could be that Herod is ruling. It could be that Caesar is ruling. And Jesus has come to defeat the dark power that lies behind all of the opposition to him. So he's come to defeat the rule of sin and death. Yeah, he's come to defeat the enemy. We could say he's come to defeat the devil. He's come to cast out the prince of the world. Yeah, and whatever we think there about, and we can still think, we can look around and see all of these different powers and authorities and all the rest. But Jesus is there. Right? Jesus rules. Jesus rules. Jesus is king. Here and now. We live on the other side of Jesus' enthronement. Right? This is before, as he's gathering his troops, as he's making his way, right? His ragtag crew and the rest. But here we live on the other side of his being enthroned. And he is King and Lord now. And I think that, we could say any number of things about this idea that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Because in the perversion of the Pharisees is to raise the law and observance of the law over the person. So what is most important for the Pharisee? It's the law. It's not the person. And that's a dreadful inversion. It's a dreadful inversion. We can't do that ourselves. Do you know? I'm gonna like give way to the kids. They're struggling I'm gonna acknowledge and prioritize the personal for our teachers and our kids by getting out of here. But yeah, absolutely. This is it for us. I'd say prioritize the personal, love, right? Because this is what Jesus is doing. He's bringing here against the old order. So he's doing the Son of Man stuff again. There's this kind of old order, the old world. But here Jesus is opening up a new world. That's what's happening. Jesus is opening up a new world. He's enabling us to be the human beings that God always intended us to be. He's animating and strengthening us to live the way of love. Love of God, love of neighbor, but all the way through. Not just the surface, not just like checking off the boxes of the law, but getting to the reality that the law indicated. The full renovation of human hearts, the full renovation of our world.